Hey there, ProChurch Media community, this is Jason again. In this tutorial, we're going to look at how to create this super fun fake 3D handwritten text inside of Photoshop using mixer brushes. They're super fun to use and really easy once you get the hang of them, and there's tons of creative things you can do with them. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Okay, so we're here in Photoshop and we need to start with a new document, Command N on the keyboard. I'm going to use 2500 by 2500 pixels, hit create. Alright, so let's start by creating a background layer. So just hit U on the keyboard to bring up your rectangle tool, and then just draw a rectangle here in the background. I'm going to use this nice baby blue color, and I think that'll work pretty well. Now if you hit Shift U, that'll bring up, let you cycle through the different shapes. I want to get to the ellipse, and then I'm just going to draw an ellipse here in the middle, probably something like about there. Okay, so now we need to add a gradient to this ellipse, and so just hit U to bring up the shape tools, and then go up to the fill. And then just click on that and go over to the gradient, and it's going to add a gradient to that. We don't want the white to black. Maybe you do, I don't. And so I'm just going to pick a gradient here. I have a bunch of presets I've made. I also have all these ones that Photoshop has bundled in. But I have this one that I used recently, which I really like. It's just kind of a dark purple to this kind of creamy pink. And I think it's going to work really nicely. The thing you want to do with this type of effect is just make sure you have a lot of contrast between your dark end and the high end. And you know, if you want to have a color step in between, that's fine, but just make sure there's quite a bit of contrast between the two ends of your gradient. Okay, so once that's done, we have our ellipse. I might just make this just a tiny bit smaller. And so just something like that. Okay, so now once we have that done, we want to rasterize this. So just right click on your ellipse and go to rasterize layer. Okay, so now it's time for the fun part where we start making and using mixer brushes. So first off, I want to actually grab a mixer brush. So if you hit B on the keyboard, it'll pull up your brush tool. And if you kind of come over here, you'll see there's a bunch of different options. There's the brush tool, the pencil tool, color replacement tool, and then the mixer brush tool. So that's the one you want to select. And it'll have some presets bundled in. I don't know which one it's going to give you. The one I'm going to use is one from Kyle T. Webster, and if you go up to this little gear icon right here and just click on that and go to Get More Brushes, that'll open up your browser and take you to the Kyle T. Webster brushes page on Adobe's site. And the one that we're going to be using is found inside the Mega Pack, and so go ahead and download that and then import those brushes. I'd say go ahead and download all of these. They're included in your Creative Cloud subscription, and they're super great, so just be sure to download those all because you'll be using them all the time. Okay, so we're back in Photoshop, and I'm just going to go to my brushes here, and this one is found, it's in the Mega Pack, like I said. I have it organized by all these different groups just to make it easier. So it's in the Mega Pack, and then you'll find it in the Paint box. And as you're looking through brushes, for mixer brushes, you want to be looking for this icon right here. So basically a brush with a little kind of droplet next to it. That tells you that it's a mixer brush and that's going to work for this particular effect. For this one, I'm just going to use this bristle boss right here, so just make sure that's selected. Then we can come out over here. Okay, so now I want to basically sample this gradient, and so I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger by hitting the right bracket to make it bigger. And then I'm going to hold alternate, and it'll bring up the eyedropper tool. And then I just want to click, and you can see it's going to give me that sample of that. And you can see if you make it smaller, if you do the same thing, it's going to basically give you, more of that. And you can kind of see the difference that you'll get. I'm not getting as much of a difference between the, the yellow and the purple. Whereas if I make my brush bigger initially and then do the sampling, it'll give me the entire thing. Then if I make my brush smaller by hitting the left bracket, you can see now I'm starting to get that nice contrast, and it's giving me that kind of fake depth going on there. So that's exactly what I want. So yeah, to do this, all you really have to do is just make sure your brush is nice and big, and then sample it by holding Alt and then clicking. You can see up here in this little preview that it's sampling the entire brush or the entire gradient, and then you can make your brush as big or as small as you want. Okay, so now we can disable that gradient layer, and we're going to make a new brush layer. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to come up to my smoothing right here and then just drag this up. If you don't have like a tablet or anything like that and you're just using a mouse, this will be super important because it'll help smooth out all of your brush strokes. And so I usually find something between like 40 and 50 works pretty well. If you do it too high, it's going to just really be laggy as you're drawing, but somewhere between 40 and 50 works pretty well. I think I'll do 45. Okay, so I'm going to use a really cheap tablet for this just to kind of expedite things. And so on this new layer, I'm just going to start drawing my J of Jesus like I have here. And so I'm just going to draw a nice J, and you can see, I'm getting that nice gradient depth going on there, which looks really super cool. And I think that looks pretty nice. And so I'm just going to kind of move this over a little bit, and I'm going to make a new layer. Once again, hit B to pull up my brush tool, and then I'm just going to start right here, and then and I can always change this up and move it later. And then I'm going to start drawing my E, come up over here and do my S, do a U, and then come over and do an S again, and then just do a little swoosh like that. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Now that I have this layer done, I can just kind of move it up here and just match those up right there so it looks like it keeps going. That looks pretty good. I'll just group these all together and kind of move it over like that, and that's looking really nice. And that's really all there is to it. You can really see just how much visual dynamism you get with that mixer brush, and just you get lots of visual punch from it just because of that gradient and how it makes it look like there's lots of depth going on there. So these are super fun to use, and you can see there's these nice little details because of the structure of that brush. You can also use other brushes, of course, like if I hit B to pull up other brushes, I might just go up to the default, and I think even like a hard round might work. Let's see. Yeah, you can see it's still a mixer brush, and you can see you're going to get a nice smoother thing with just a round brush like that, which looks cool as well. I kind of like the little grittiness on the edges up there, but because it looks more like almost a paintbrush or something like that. But there's tons of different things you can do with this and get really awesome looks with these mixer brushes. So just be sure to play around with different mixer brushes, see what kind of effects you can get, and you can make all kinds of cool stuff. Alright, so let's go ahead and stylize this to finish it off. So I'm just going to grab my ellipse tool by hitting U in the keyboard, and then just drag out an ellipse here. And I think what I'll do is I'll come up to my alignment tools, and if these are all grayed out, just make sure this is aligned to canvas, and then just align it to the center. Oops. And I'm going to add, instead of a fill, I want to add a pattern to it. So I'm just going to come up to the fill well here and come over to pattern. And I have some patterns already loaded in. I have this nice kind of, let's see where it is. There we go. Nice kind of wavy lines there, and I think I like that. And so I'm going to go with that. Let me see what I did over here. Looks like I set it to soft light. So I'm just going to set this to soft light just to get that nice blue, put it behind my text group. I should probably relabel this. And that looks really nice. And I think I might go ahead and just add a quick drop shadow to this. I want it to be really super subtle, something like almost a pink or something like that, set to linear burn, opacity all the way up, and maybe something. I could probably drag the opacity down. I just want it to be super subtle just to get a tiny bit of depth going on there. Just really, drag out that size just so it's super subtle. And then I might just duplicate this, Command J on the keyboard, and then Command T to bring up the free transform tool, and then just scale this down, something like that. And I think what I did over here is, let's see, I just set this other one to lighter color, so we can just set this to lighter color instead of soft light. And so now we were going to basically just get the drop shadow there, and I think it's a nice kind of an effect right there. That looks pretty good. And then I think just to kind of finish this off, I'm going to grab a rectangle, just draw a perfect square, something like that. Once again, set this to soft light. Then I'm just going to hit Command T to pull up my free transform tool, hold Shift as I rotate it just to constrain the rotations, and then just kind of stick this up there. I want to make sure to align it to the center, and I might just have it kind of go to right where those corners meet right there, something like that. Duplicate, Command J, we'll pull this all the way down to the bottom. That looks pretty good. And then we'll duplicate both of these, Command J, Command T to pull up a free transform tool. Just rotate them over to the sides. Just like that, we have our awesome graphic here with our fun mixer brush tool, the fake 3D brush, and everything looks great. So That's pretty much all there is to it. You can see just how fun the mixer brush tool can be. I really only discovered it just a little while ago, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. So get into Photoshop, have a lot of fun with the mixer brush tools, play around, get some awesome effects going on, see what you can create, and I will talk to you later.